Today's first plenary is on the subject of supporting work-life balance for working mothers. We have assembled a dynamic group of leaders with a wealth of knowledge representing the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Before we begin the discussion, I want to thank our sponsor, Horizon Therapeutics, and welcome Irina Konstantinovsky, Horizon's Executive Vice President and Chief of Human Resources, for brief remarks.
Hi everyone, I'm Irina Konstantinovsky, Chief Human Resource Officer at Horizon Therapeutics, a biopharmaceutical company that develops breakthrough medicines for people living with rare and rheumatic diseases. I want to welcome everyone to this session supporting work-life balance for working mothers. I'm originally from Argentina and the mother of two amazing daughters. Navigating work, housework, caregiving, and now homeschooling is a tremendous challenge. Like many others, as I grew in my career, my increased job responsibilities came with extended hours and travel. Growing up in a Latino household, conventional wisdom said that as a woman, I should change or leave my job when I had kids. I ignored that conventional wisdom. I had a strong support network that allowed me to have both, a career and a family. But I'm well aware that many women are forced to choose between career or family, and I believe that corporate America has a responsibility to better support them. Horizon is committed to creating a fully equitable culture for all. Our areas of focus include 1. Equal pay for equal work. Sadly, Latino women are paid 54 cents for every dollar paid to white, non-Hispanic men. Corporations have to address these. We did. Horizon is within the 1% of companies globally that can claim equal pay across gender and ethnicity for our workforce. 1%. Number 2, parental leave. We offer up to 18 weeks of paid time off to birth mothers. Number 3, caregiver leave. We also offer paid time off to support our employees who have to take care of a sick loved one. But there is always more to be done. As the COVID pandemic rages on, companies must partner with elected leaders, nonprofits, and other stakeholders to seek creative solutions that fuel an economy that includes everyone. Thank you to the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute for bringing this important topic forward and providing leadership opportunities for the Latino community. Thank you.
Thank you, Irina. Now, this plenary addresses an important topic in our community and relates to a priority for CHCI. Across industries and sectors, the continuing lack of representation of women and Latinas in leadership is a problem we have to fix. Right now, there is not a single woman of color CEO of a Fortune 500 corporation. Women continue to fight against gender bias, racism, sexual harassment, as well as inequities in pay and promotion in the workplace. Add to that the need to balance professional and personal responsibilities, whether it's caring for children or aging parents. And while these challenges are not unique to the Hispanic community, as we've already discussed, in the current reality, issues like these have been magnified for us more than other groups. For the past several months, due to COVID-19, working moms have had to try to find ways to manage work from home while their children, from toddler through college age, have attempted to continue their education at home through online or distance learning. And on the other hand, working moms whose jobs cannot be done from home and do not have other in-house support, such as relatives, have had to scramble to find childcare. And as if all of that were not enough, we've just become aware of claims by a whistleblower and now some actual detainees about some appalling conditions and treatment of women in detention centers that would amount to human rights violations. This kind of assault on women's rights and on the lives of women of color must stop. At CHCI, we are dedicated to developing the next generation of Latino leaders, Latino, Latina, Latinx leaders. And to achieve that, to truly achieve that for all of our leaders, we know that we and our nation overall will have to find ways to root out sexism and bias and also dismantle the structural and systemic barriers that bring harm to Latinas and other women of color and keep all women from reaching their full potential. This is going to be a powerful plenary session, and I encourage our entire community to get engaged and elevate women leaders. Our Latina leaders have and continue to show every day how they are the very best of our leaders, so that the decisions we collectively make as a society can support and uplift them, and all women, including mothers in the workplace. Now, to begin the conversation, I want to welcome Congresswoman Debbie Mccarsell-Powell, who in her first term in Congress is the first Ecuadorian American and first South American immigrant member of Congress, and who chairs the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Women's Task Force, for a few remarks. She will be immediately followed by Congresswoman Lucille Roybal Allard, a leader whose incredible list of accomplishments include being the first Mexican-American woman elected to Congress, the first woman to chair the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and an original co-author of the DREAM Act, who now chairs the House Homeland Security Appropriations Subcommittee. Let's hear from them now.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be speaking to all of you at the CHCI conference on such an important subject, supporting a work-life balance for working Hispanic mothers. As a working mother myself, I know firsthand many of the challenges that Latina moms face when trying to balance my work responsibilities with spending time as the primary caretaker for not just my children, but also for my mother. I don't need to tell you that family comes first. We all know this. But because of the systemic inequalities, caring for our families is becoming more and more difficult with each passing day. Hispanic women and mothers already face massive inequity, only earning 54 cents for every dollar earned by white, non-Hispanic men. At the same time, the cost of living continues to increase. In an economy that is increasingly being built on dual-income households, requiring two working parents to make ends meet, affordable childcare continues to be out of reach for too many families. And while Latina mothers are providing care for their loved ones, they often lack access to critical benefits like paid family and sick leave. In fact, 51% of Hispanic women are unable to earn a single paid sick leave through their jobs. Meanwhile, this pandemic has shown us just how essential our work is. It is Hispanic mothers staffing our childcare centers, our nursing home facilities, working in food service, all the essential businesses that make this country work. This pandemic has torn our economy apart, and it's hit Latinas the hardest. That's why, as chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Women's Task Force, I am fighting each day to ensure that Hispanic working mothers not only recover from this pandemic, but that we build an economy that works better for everyone. I look forward to working with you to create an economy built on pay equity, affordable childcare, accessible home health care, and paid benefits for everyone.
Good afternoon. I'm Lucille Roybal Allard, and I represent California's 40th Congressional District. The cities and communities within my Los Angeles County District have the unique distinction of being home to the highest percentage of Latinos of any district in the country. On behalf of CHCI, I thank you for attending CHCI's 2020 Leadership Conference entitled Our Voice, Nuestro Poder, and for taking the time to learn more about the pressing issues challenging our Latino communities and the critical need for our collective civic engagement. Thank you everyone from CHCI for organizing this conference and for giving me the opportunity to provide opening remarks for this unique panel on supporting work-life balance for working mothers. This issue has touched my life in so many ways over the course of my career. As a single mom with grade school children, I experienced the same sexism many women face today, and I struggled to find safe and appropriate childcare as I worked to establish myself as a professional and still be home in time to put meals on the table and make sure homework was completed. As I began my political career in the state assembly, it was challenging to balance the travel and time demands of being a legislator with the very real needs of a marriage and two high schoolers exploring their horizons. When I was elected to Congress, my son and daughter were adults pursuing their own careers. But soon I was faced with the challenge of helping to care for two elderly parents while flying back and forth across the country each week. But I was lucky to have a job that offered me financial support with some flexibility to meet the demands of my career and fulfill some parenting and caregiving responsibilities. But the truth is, there will always be the feelings of guilt for not always being there for my parents, my children, and my grandchildren. My experiences are hardly unique. They are experiences faced by all working women in one way or another. In many ways, however, my experiences pale in comparison to so many women, especially those in our Hispanic communities who daily struggle to meet their families' basic needs by working in low-wage jobs without parental and family leave, paid time off, flexible hours, or the ability to telecommute. I have heard their heartbreaking stories many times during almost 30 years of representing Hispanic communities in Congress. As a member of the Labor HHS Appropriations Subcommittee, it is their challenges, their courage, and their hopes that have inspired my support of education and workforce training programs that give women greater opportunity to develop their talents, advance their career, and obtain equitable pay. As co-chair of the Congressional Maternity Care Caucus, their challenges also encourage me to champion policies that ensure maternity and parental leave and that provide breastfeeding support in the workplace. But so much more needs to be done. According to a Pew Research Center report, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Hispanic women have experienced a steeper decline in employment than other women or men. And since February, the pandemic has tripled Hispanic unemployment rates overall. This deadly pandemic must be defeated, and we must work to address the inequities and weaknesses it revealed about our healthcare system and to stabilize the economies the coronavirus has impaired in our Hispanic communities. But it is more important than ever that we not give up our fight to empower working women. As great as the challenges today, we must continue our fight at the local, state, and federal level to advance paid family and medical leave, paid sick days, equal pay, breastfeeding rights, and other workplace justice policies for Latinas and for all women. Our panel of business executives will share their best workplace practices to help working women maximize their full potential and successfully care for their loved ones. As we look towards the future, their successes can guide local, state, and federal policies that support a better work-life balance for Latinas and all working moms and caregivers. Again, thank you for joining us, and thank you to everyone on the panel for sharing your valuable insights, stories, and experiences. When we uplift and empower women in the workplace, we not only build a stronger economy, we ensure safer, healthier families and communities and a stronger and more vibrant America.
Thank you, Congresswoman Mccarsell-Powell and Congresswoman Roybal-Allard. We appreciate your participation and your inspiring words. And now I'm pleased to introduce our panel's moderator. Maria Elena Salinas' career accomplishments are numerous. Her full, incredible bio is available here on our website, but to put it simply, she is one of the most recognizable and respected journalists in the country, most notably having served as co-anchor of Univision's evening news program for more than 30 years. Maria Elena has interviewed world leaders and covered virtually every major national and international news event of our time, and that has garnered her the top awards in broadcasting, including multiple Emmys. Finally, when we first approached her about this session, she let us know that this is a topic she cares about personally, so I'm sure she'll share her perspective in addition to managing the panel. Please welcome the incomparable Maria Elena Salinas.
Hello all, good afternoon. I am Maria Elena Salinas, independent journalist and contributor with CBS News, And my most important title is Mother of Julia and Gabby, 25 and 23 years old. Thanks to Congresswoman Debbie Mccarsell-Powell and also Congresswoman Lucille Roybal-Allard for their opening remarks and setting up a great tone for our conversation. And of course, thanks to CHCI for hosting this powerful leadership conference and deciding to focus attention on the very important topic we'll address today, work-life balance for working mothers, a topic that is so crucial to all of us and sometimes ignored or put to the side. So today we are joined by a group of very accomplished women in their respective fields who will share their own experience and the challenges that they face and have faced to find that balance and give us some guidance, of course, on how they have been able to overcome them. Feel free to tweet out comments and questions. Your comments can be tweeted out with the hashtag CHCIHHM20, which is CHCI Hispanic Heritage Month 20. And prepare your questions, which we will get to a little later during our session on the box at the bottom of your screen, Slido. You can start thinking, you can start putting in your questions now if you want. So let's meet our dynamic women. Let's start with Major Yvette Cruz Givings, United States Air Force. Major Cruz Givings serves as the Deputy Chief Retention and Air Force Diversity and Inclusion. In her role, she implements Secretary of the Air Force, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and Deputy Chief of Staff Manpower and Personnel Strategic Vision priorities. That's a lot of work. And goals for the Air Force diversity and inclusion. And she also serves as the Air Force representative for the Defense Advisory Committee on Women in the Services. Thank you, Major Cruz, for being here. And next, we have Leticia Ferry, Global Lead Organization for Latino Achievement, Bristol-Myers Squibb. Ms. Ferry brings a unique experience to OLA, Organization for Latino Achievement, that spans from working as a physician in the pharmaceutical industry across different global markets such as Brazil, Canada, and the United States, as a physician scientist at the University of Sao Paulo and University of Toronto, and as a clinical specialized in endocrinology and internal medicine. Leticia has been appointed as the full-time lead for OLA at BMS in June 2019 and is one of the Latina leaders at BMS Global Leadership Team. Welcome, Leticia. Miriam Freedom, Geico, CAPS Digital Manager and Black Belt at Geico Claims Home Office. Miriam recently celebrated 36 years with Geico. She is currently responsible for the development of innovative systems and workflow solutions for Geico's claim systems. She helped create the very first diversity committee at Geico 27 years ago. She's a member of the Geico Cares program and the current diversity chair for the DC region. Miriam was born in El Salvador, in San Salvador, El Salvador, and immigrated to Washington, D.C. in 1996. Welcome. And Stacy D. Stewart, President and CEO of March of Dimes. Ms. Stewart joined March of Dimes as its fifth president and CEO on January of 2017. In this role, she heads the organization's leading the fight for health of all moms and babies. She's responsible for all aspects of the organization's strategy, vision, and operations. Stewart came to March of Dimes from United Way Worldwide. We're very happy to have you here, all of you. I also want to mention that she used to serve as president, leading national efforts in education, revenue growth, and health of brand recognition at United Way. Again, welcome all of you. Let's start with a very basic question. Work-life balance is different for every single person. What does it mean to you? Let's start with you, Major Cruz.
So work-life balance, I mean, that's basically the military. It's that. So you have to really, there's no 50-50 ever. Sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 70-30. It just depends on what the mission is. So work-life balance is really just figuring out what it is that you want in your career, going for it. And sometimes the military has other plans for you. So sometimes you have to give up some things to make it work. And, then you come back and you have some more time with your family and children. So like I said, it's never 50-50. And once you understand that, and you make it work.
How about for you, Leticia? What does work-life balance mean to you?
Yeah, I agree completely with Yvette. And when you think about balance, right, we feel like we need to divide. And that's so hard, right? One of the things, Maria Elena, that I always have in mind, we need to be kind to us, right? Because it's so hard, especially now this year with all these challenges. Sometimes we are not doing well in all fronts, but we need to talk about it, communicate, and be kind, right? Just do our best. So I would say it's really like to be kind to ourselves, do the best that we can, and really think what's our core, right? Where I'm more needed now, and I use effort there and be present when I'm doing something.
Miriam, what does it mean to you? Work-life balance.
Really good question. I think for me, it's flexibility, making sure that you're flexible enough at work to accommodate the needs of our customers, our associates. But when it comes to our family, that's extremely critical. Make sure that you really do focus on the family needs. They're just, if not more important than our customers' needs, but you need to be really flexible with your family, have a great plan with the family, and execute it together. But what I say to my associates and my family, let's have fun every day. That's really important. Let's be flexible, meet our daily goals, and have fun doing it.
Right. We'll get into that a little bit deeper in a minute.
Yes.
Stacey Stewart, tell me, what's work-life balance to you? What does it mean?
Well, I think it's a great question, and I've heard other people talk about it. I agree with everything that the other panelists have talked about. I think it's really hard to have balance at every single moment of every single day. There's some things that are usually going really well, and some things that are not going so well any given day. So balance is really something that's over a period of time. Sometimes, maybe over the course of a week or a month. I think for women, it's really important with so many women working, balancing family, balancing employment, balancing trying to have a personal life, is trying to find the right kind of quality time for each one of those things, and being forgiving of ourselves when some part of those things or one part of those things don't go well, right? It's finding that space and that grace to say that we're not perfect, but also to realize when we need help. So one of the things that we do a lot at the March Dimes is really encourage women to use your voice, to speak up. If you need accommodations, if you need support at work, make sure that your manager is there to provide that for you, or that you really are clear on what you need, or at home, or when you need time for yourself, being able to voice that to your family as well. So it's really being able to articulate what's important to you at any point in time, and then how do you ask for the help when you need it to make sure your voice is really heard and respected.
Right. That's really important. I'm glad you said that, because sometimes, thinking that we're super women, because of course we all think we're super women, we forget that it's okay to once in a while need the help, need the support, and be able to ask for it without feeling weak. The current situation with the pandemic, of course, has given work-life balance new meaning. Even though it's a temporary situation, we're still in the middle of it, and it's making it more difficult for all families. What challenges are you facing associated with work and family life now that how are you handling it at this moment? Let's start with Leticia.
I think, like you were saying, when we started this pandemic was really hard, right? Because suddenly everything came at the same time, and I think it's getting better, right? As our companies are adjusting, as we are all adjusting. One thing that it really is helping me at BMS, the company, we have revised all our policies, and we also are taking consideration the challenge that with our kids, but as well our parents, right? Many of us are as well responsible for the elderly in our family. So we have revised and have a more comprehensive plan and really talk about it, because sometimes doesn't change. You can have the best plan, having all support, but if we don't tell people what we are offering, right? I don't think there is ever an over communication problem. So we always make sure people are aware about the resource. So this has been helping a lot. And as well, I think for me, what has been helping a lot is the support network that we have as well at work, talking with each other, how we are doing this, and learning from others, and know that we are not alone, right? So when then suddenly you realize, okay, I'm not the only one who's struggling how to manage this. So this has been helping me a lot to go through this phase now.
Right. Major Yvette Cruz, I know that you have small children, right? So it must be even more
do. I have
challenging
one.
for you.
Yeah, so starting off, it's one thing to pick up your laptop and come and telework from home, which was great. Sounded like a great idea, more time. But you can't tell a 1-year-old mommy's working because that 1-year-old needs breakfast, lunch, and dinner, wants to play, and feels like you're there to be with the baby, right? So that has been a little challenging in separating work from being a mom at home. I think that I've been very fortunate to have supportive leadership, and they understand that. They understand that we do have small children at home, and we have other things going on. So they give us a flexibility. We understand that you're not going to be work 7:30 to 4:30. That sometimes there's going to be things that happen during the day, and maybe you have to pick up your computer and work while the children are at nap time or when they go to sleep. But as long as the mission is getting done, um, they've been very flexible with that, and I'm very lucky to have supportive leadership.
Right, Miriam, tell me about your case, because it's not the same thing to have mom or whoever go to work and then come back later, but you're there and you're still working. Sometimes it's difficult for people to comprehend. How do you do this?
It's a learning how, once again, how to be masters at balancing. So at our company, we had to deploy with the work from home. We had to prepare 44,000 to be able to work from home successfully and not skip a beat. At the same time, we had to really work closely with our associates to make sure that we were going to support their new environment. I have several associates. All of my associates are across the country. I don't have anybody specifically close to me in DC or Virginia, but um, some of the best parts about being able to work from home and being able to work with them on a daily basis is kind of saying good morning to their children and just getting to know their families a little bit more face to face. I think that has really lessened the stress of the parents of the young mothers that are on my team. So we try to make it a little family thing first thing in the morning. We share a story or an idea, and then we jump headfirst right into our work. And I can see that it's really been helpful to have a more human side and a more home type of side setting, and just helps alleviate the stress. And then we get through the work. So, and always, as I
Yeah.
said, flexibility.
Stacey, has it been complicated for you during this pandemic? Has it been more complicated than other times?
It's kind of interesting at the March of Dimes, and I started as the president of the March of Dimes in 2017. And we had, for many hundreds of employees that we have, everyone had a Zoom account because we have a pretty virtual workforce. We've got some people that work in offices, but a lot of people that work from home.
You were ahead of the
So
game
when
already.
oh yeah, absolutely. So when everybody had to jump to Zoom, we were sort of saying, "What's the problem? We were already here." And I regularly, even though I work in our national area, I would spend a lot of my days on Zoom meetings with people, either in the office and or on Zoom. So the idea of transitioning work to home and being virtual all day really was not a big lift for us. I do think, and honestly, I'll just say, eliminating a commute time saved me time in my day. I could roll out of bed, get dressed, and kind of show up on the computer. There are actually some benefits to working from home. But I will tell you that, I don't have young kids. I do have 2 high school kids. One is actually applying to college right now, and that's a whole, major lift for our family. But it is nice to be close to them. They're doing distance learning, and I can, be close to them, answer questions, be them emotionally. It's been really hard for them, and I feel like I've had to take a lot of that on as mom to, help them through this as well. But for us, our employees, really are weathering this pretty well. I think we have done a few things to make sure our employees get the support they need. One is that we had already offered hours of benefit for elder care. We've expanded that if parents need that time to spend with their kids while they're distance learning, they can use that time more flexibly. We ask our managers to check in with employees all the time. We offer support for mental health. Support groups of employees have been coming together just to share what they're seeing and experiencing. As you see the pandemic evolving around in your community, it's hit various communities in different ways. So sometimes, in the Northeast, we were facing a crisis point, but now that crisis point is hitting other parts of the country. So responding to different employees with their needs at any given time. has been really important. And I think just making sure that, you know, we let people know, look, we know this is difficult. We'll be understanding. Let us know what you need, and try to have some grace during this period of time. I think has been really important.
That's great advice. Major Cruz, I want to talk to you about the difficulties of breaking the glass ceiling within the military, and the challenge that it represents. Having kids is a challenge, but I mean, you're in the military. Has it been, let's say, an impediment for you to be able to grow in your career?
It's a good question. So we talk a lot about this, especially on the officer side. There's a lot of women that do wait to have children because they don't want it to negatively affect their career and some of the opportunities that they could have. Um, I think for me, there were some challenges because I had, I have a college student now as well. So I've now a 1-year-old, so I've seen it all. And I think that the Air Force specifically has really opened up their policies to bring in more women and retain them because when I first came in with my second child, I got 6 weeks off and I had to come back to work and take a PT test 42 days after that. With this last child that I had, I got to have 3 months off paid, and I get a year before I have to take my physical fitness test. So it's changing right before my eyes, and I think that there's a lot of things that used to be an impediment, and I think we still have a long way to go. But we have a women's initiative team that works at the Pentagon, and these ladies are getting things done. They are breaking glass ceilings, as you say. They are changing policies so women can fly when pregnant, women can make decisions, women can breastfeed and store their milk and pump at work and have bases. And they're making policy change. So it's good to see, and at the rate that it's going, it makes for a better Air Force for those women coming behind us.
Right. Miriam, in your case, you have said that, this is a great quote, that with any challenge, there's an opportunity. With any obstacle, this is a better path to take. Can you expand on that?
Yes. So I've always shared my philosophy that every challenge is an opportunity and an opportunity to do it even better. So I encourage all the new associates and even my own associates in our teams to any obstacle that we have, I challenge you to come up with some solutions to be able to share with the team to be able to make it your own. One of the things that we want to always do is focus on how we want to sell our brand. What are we about? What can the organization expect from us? That we're willing to take on any challenges and turn them into opportunities for the organization internally and also for our customers. So I love getting challenges. I love getting questions. I love getting new opportunities to meet. I will tell you that one of the things that I really enjoy about my job, because I'm an old cat at Geico, I've been there 36 years, is that because of the systems, I've helped deploy over 7 generations of systems. I get calls from all walks of life across the organization because they always think, Marian took that challenge and took that opportunity, and she decided she wanted to learn that environment and learn about the workflow, learn about the business. And so one of the happiest opportunities that on a daily basis is questions from anywhere about systems or how to improve something. So just being able to show that you want to be a Renaissance person, that you want to continue your knowledge and your education, speaks volumes about you and your brand.
Leticia, I want to talk to you about a subject that's a little bit touchy, which is, racism, sexism, discrimination. Especially you live in Latin America, you know how that is. And we need to have a conversation about it. We need to open up about it. Have we matured enough as a society to not just have a conversation about it, but to actually find solutions?
Yeah. And Maria, like you were saying, right? I think racism, all this discrimination had always been there, right? But somehow it was in the past something that many people were trying to avoid, right? Or like, how I'm going to have these conversations. and it's very difficult, right? And what we have been doing now at BMS, and I think has been just amazing, is that okay, that's time we need to talk about it. When we say let's start having those powerful conversations. So we have been developing and making sure everyone has the tools, and we need to talk about it, right? Because it's important that we learn from each other. I need to know if my colleague ever feel discriminated for some reason and why, right? I cannot assume that we know. So we have been having those powerful conversations. And what is great, because that's coming from the top, we have our leaders showing how they have been doing, and in the bottom as well. So that conversation is happening across the organization. And as you said, that's very difficult for all of us. And but we are doing it. And I think that's the only way that we will start to make some change. But we need to help people to have those conversations, because otherwise people might think they are having, and we cannot assume that we know unless we start to have those conversations. And for example, one thing that I just want to, that Stacey mentioned before about the different groups, that she has different ERGs, and at BMS we have that. So I am the lead for OLA, the Organization for Latinos, but we do have a group as well for Black, for women, and we are having the discussion across all groups, right? And really talking about what is the challenge for each different group. And of course, we have a lot of intersectionality, right? Many of us, we could be Latino, Black, and part of it's not just so we
Yeah, we'll
cannot
check out several boxes.
Exactly. So that's why we have been doing that and helping people to understand that.
Thank you very much. Stacey, I want to ask you something. Again, I know that we need support at work, but sometimes we need support at home too in order to be able to succeed. In her book, Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg talks about the importance of sharing responsibility at home, having a supportive spouse or partner. Is that doable? I mean, Stacey, you and your husband are both accomplished professionals. How important is it for both of you to take on the responsibilities at home and to share the same type of responsibilities?
Well, I think if a working mom is fortunate to have a spouse, it's really important that both parents are really participate in raising the children, taking care of the home, and I'm fortunate to have a lot of great support at work. And I because I know I'm not a superwoman, I know that I could never do this without a great spouse and a great partner and a really terrific team at the March of Dimes. But the unfortunate reality is a lot of women don't have that, right? They don't necessarily, they are single parents and they are raising, kids on their own. Many women have the fortune of having a very supportive extended family. So grandparents, and other extended family that can help. And I think for any working mother, I don't know any working mom that says that she can do all of this on her own. I think every working mother says, yeah, there's always someone I rely on. So if a woman doesn't have that partner spouse, then it is really important to create that village, right? And fortunately in Black and Brown communities, we do that all the time. That's a part of our history. It's a part of our culture. It's how we've always operated. So it comes kind of naturally for us, but it's really, really important. And I think, having that spouse at home is really important, but having the support at work is really important, and making sure that we have policies in place that really support women who are working and trying to take care of home. Equal pay for women is imperative, right? Having an affordable childcare system in this country that makes sure that women, if they don't have the support at home, that they can affordably place their children in the care of a trustworthy care provider that they can afford. Making sure that if a woman is pregnant, and we're so glad that in Congress just yesterday, the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act was passed in the House. We needed to go on to the Senate. But to make sure that if I'm pregnant, there reasonable accommodations can be provided to me. These are that women need, right? And we have to demand that not only in our home, but at work too. And we have to demand it, especially among our policymakers, because we clearly have too many gaps where women can fall through and not get the support they need. But we can demand more, and we should, and we deserve more, for sure.
Major Cruz, there's something that let me see that I wanted to ask you here. I think it's an important question. You're on the advisory committee of women in the armed services. how responsive are the upper levels of the armed services to questions of women wanting to rise up in the ranks, and those who face discrimination and sexual harassment, something that has been in the headlines lately with military specifically?
Yeah, so I think it's first we have to understand that the military specifically, when I talk Air Force, but all the military, we're a slice of society. So unfortunately, when we see bad things happen in the military, we're not immune to it. It will, and we try to, you know, take care of that to weed those bad apples out. But in my experience, I have, I have sat as a victim advocate, and I have filled in for a sexual assault response coordinator. So I have seen some of these cases come through when it comes to sexual assault. And it has been my experience that every time we had cases, my leadership was very supportive of the victims. And we did all we could to take care of that victim and their families. The Air Force also has a program, an expedited transfer program, in which victims can be moved to another duty station closer to family or friends if they need that support within 30, 60 days of requesting. So it is something that they take care of. As far as the armed forces and DACOWITS and the topics that come up to them, they do a very good job at going and doing sensing sessions at different organization or bases and posts and seeing what the issues really are at that level. And then they do make the recommendations to Secretary of Defense, and action is taken. And so I feel very confident in our leaders and the movement going forward for women in the military, because there are a lot of policy changes that are happening right now, and they're happening fast, to allow our women to want to serve in the military and want to stay in the military.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for addressing that. That's an important issue. As we know, even in Congress right now, they are discussing a bill called the I Am Vanessa Guillen Bill Act to try to create a new division where women or men who have been sexually harassed can and report it. You know, sometimes we have to deal with a situation that you wouldn't expect at home, which would be competition with your significant other, about who is more successful. Have any of you ever experienced that? And if so, how do you deal with it and have a healthy relationship? I mean, it doesn't happen all the time. And I know that when we talk about families, we're not just talking about, a wife and a husband and a kid. Sometimes it's your significant other. Sometimes it's your partner. Is that an issue? Or do you know anyone who has faced that issue? Leticia.
Yeah,
You smile, you have a big smile. That means you have something to say.
exactly.
Okay.
After I explain to my husband, right? I am talking about him
Okay.
here. But I think in my situation at my house, we both have the same background, and so that we are both physicians. We finished medical school at the same year, residency. So I think naturally we have been always in our careers looking which. So it's not a competition, but there is always a comparison, right? Where you're going next and where I'm going next. So very early on, we had to decide, okay, who is taking the next step? Even like when you were doing my intro, when you move different countries, there were some times I was the one making the move, and other times he was the one making the move. One thing, Maria, that I would like to share here, there is of course the agreement between us, but there is the external perception as well, right? Usually the society, family, everyone accept much more when he was the one leading the move, and if I was the one following, even if I had no job or anything at that moment initially, rather than it was me making the move and he was following me. So that when he was the one following me and I was the one taking the lead, we got many more comments. How we decide to make that decision, and how come he was not working, how he would be a working spouse. So we had to clear up that very quickly between us to make sure we wouldn't send out the message. But we always
Right.
got those kind of comments.
Yeah. Somebody always has something to say, butting into your life. Stacy, how about you? Have you ever experienced that?
I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, when I married my husband, I was already serving as president and CEO of a national affordable housing foundation. So when he met me, I was already pretty advanced in my career. So I feel like he kind of knew what he was getting when we got married, in terms of pretty focused on my career, dedicated, and that, obviously that would continue. But if he were on this, he would tell you, look, I grew up in a household of a lot of women, very strong women, my mother, my sisters, and I know what this is like when you, and now he's got me and two daughters, right, to deal with. So he has kind of lived his life being around pretty strong-willed women, and though it's not always easy for him, he somehow has to figure out how to adjust to it. And I think, it's really a partnership. It really is. It takes neither one of us alone to manage all the things going on in our lives. It really does take the both of us working together. And fortunately, I think it's a little bit of a generational thing. I mean, when I look at my mother, who's well into her 80s, and was kind of forced to stay home and take care of the kids, while my father, who was a physician as well, Leticia, pursued his career. I'm sure it was disappointing to her until later on in life. She then pursued some things on her own. For me, it's been better. For my daughters, I know better. And so I'm hoping that some of these sort of norms of the role of the woman and the role of the man will sort of, continue to, fall away, and we'll redefine what it
Evolve,
looks
hopefully.
like to evolve and redefine and be, that as women are pursuing careers, they get the same level of attention, support, respect, as men, both outside the house and inside the house as well.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Major Yvette? I'm not sure. Is your husband also in the armed forces?
No. So I think it's a different perspective that people have. So people in the military usually are married mill to mill. If not, it's a lot of men and they have their wives. And then you have people like me, that your husband is a civilian. So that in turn brings up, we have spouses groups, and sometimes, it used to be a lot of women, and now there's more men that are spouses, and that brings, a different flavor to it. So for the men to be the spouse, considered the dependent, that shows that, that gives the woman, oh, your wife is in the military. It just gives you a different, when people see your relationship, they always assume the man is in the military, right? So every time we go somewhere,
right.
They ask about your husband being in the military. No, I'm the one in the military. So I think it's changing. But yeah, it definitely does happen in the military, where spouses are military to military, and their jobs, they have to at some point they have to make a decision who is going to follow who, or we are going to be apart for X amount of time so we can both grow in our careers, because you can't necessarily be stationed together if you want to grow.
Yeah, I'm glad we're addressing this. I mean, some people might think, why are we talking about, competition? But, it's real. And sometimes that it can sometimes even stop you and intimidate you from saying, I have to be careful, or I have to, make sure that I have a balance in my life, and that my husband doesn't feel insulted, or my significant other doesn't feel insulted, or my partner. Miriam, you are from El Salvador, and as we know, in the Latin world, it's even a little bit more complicated. I mean, a woman is supposed to stay home, take care of the kids, cook, and the husband's
Yes.
supposed to be the provider.
Yes.
How has it been for you?
I came in the 60s, actually the year that Martin Luther King was killed. So not only did I see people from different races, but I was immediately aware what was going on around us with the assassination of a great man. But I do remember my father for many, many years being so traditional that he was. He said, the only level you'll ever be able to get to in a work environment and a business environment would be an administrative assistant. And he said, that's what you're going to do. You're going to have a family, but you cannot leave the house until you're actually married. So already he was telling me I had to be married before I could leave my parents' home. and that I was not going to accomplish more than becoming an administrative assistant. So I think he was a little bit proud of me when I actually didn't do what he had said I should do. So sometimes you have to really kind of break away from some of those traditions, but never disrespectfully, and share with your family that you're doing this for the best for you and the best for your family and your family to be. So, and with my husband, Mike and I met when we were 14 years old. We're both 58 years old, and we've been together ever since we were
14,
14.
wow.
14, yeah. And he wanted to walk me home from school. But the thing with my husband is that, he's also my best friend. And so he was focusing on getting his company created first, and I was there to support him for that. We only have one son. He's 28. But after our son was a little bit older and his business took off, I was able to go back to school, and he supported me in going back to school. And up until last year, also, I've been traveling on a regular basis on behalf of Geico. And so he's been supportive in that. So I think for us, it was sort of a natural progression, having trust that the other will support as we're going through something different and something a little bit bigger than what we had done before. Definitely being flexible in the relationship, communicate, and then support each other.
We have some questions beginning to come in. In 5 minutes, we'll begin to ask your questions. I just remind the audience there that you can go into Slido at the bottom of your screen and ask the question. If you would like to tell us if you're directing the question to any specific person, please do so. If not, we can just address it to whoever wants to answer it. One of the questions that I have heard when it pertains to work-life balance is, can you have it all? I mean, there's different interpretations of what all means, but let's just say, can you have a professional career and still be, a mother and a wife or whatever that fulfills all of or homemaker, let's say, that fulfills all of it? It's difficult, and that's what balance is all about. But is it doable? Who would like to answer that? Or what do you have to sacrifice in order to make it doable?
Yeah, so I think that's
all
what
smiling.
it is.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I think that you it depends on what you want, right? So yes, you can have the career and you can have the kids, but maybe you really want to be there for your kids a little bit more, right? So you're gonna not rise all the way to the top because you don't want to sacrifice your kids. Or, you sacrifice not having kids because you do want to rise, but that's what you want. I think it's different for everybody. And I think it's really personal. What is it that you want? You can have it all. It's not going to all be, I don't think you're going to do it without sacrifice and giving up a lot of things to get there.
And that's okay. Yeah. Anyone else want to answer that?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, I would just chime in and say, I think, first of all, I agree with that. I think you can have a lot of things in your life. You may not have them every single, as I mentioned earlier, you may not have them every single day the way you want them. They may not be, one thing might be going very well, and another part may not be going as well. But as long as you don't hold on to some sort of standard of perfection, that if your life is not lining up to this sort of mythical standard that is probably unattainable for most human beings, as long as you allow yourself the flexibility and the ability to acknowledge that you cannot do all things well at all times, and that you cannot do all things well at all without the support, then you can start to make the right choices and really find happiness and peace in the things that you do. And it does come down to some choices. There are some things that you can have in your life, but you may not have everything that you want. And you have to get to the point of saying, and it's okay. If they're, would I love to go out more with my friends at night and all of that? Sure. But if I'm after a long day, that's not going to, I'll have to make time for friends another day, or I may not have as much time, but I have to find peace in enjoying the things that I do have and being grateful for those things, so that you're not constantly living up to a standard that you can't get to, or constantly disappointed in yourself because you're not getting there. I think Life is too short for that, and I think we all have to find that peace and happiness with what we have now, and wake up every day just hoping to do more and better for ourselves and for our families.
I want to some of the questions now that we have coming in on Slido. Again, if anyone else has questions from the audience, you can feel free to go ahead and put them into Slido at the bottom of your screen. And then hopefully we have time before, because there is something that I want to ask all of you. You can start thinking about it, and it is work-life balance, or how does me time fit into work-life balance? So here we go with one of these questions, and this is from an anonymous person. What tips do you have about how to advocate for your rights as a caregiver in a station that doesn't have a great track record? Who wants to answer that? Again, what can working moms do to, let me give you another one then, because no one seems to be interested in that or wants to chime in on that one. Let's see.
Well, Maria Elena, can I just say something about that, though? I don't know about the specific situation, but this is one thing that I do a lot, especially as a woman CEO at the March of Dimes. Of course, we're an organization with a lot of women working to care after the health needs of moms and babies. One of the things that I encourage my employees to do, especially women employees, because someone did it for me early in my career, is to always acknowledge that if you were hired by an organization, it's because you're valued, you're smart, you're capable, you have skills. Otherwise, they wouldn't have hired you. And when my boss told me that one day as a young 20-year-old professional trying to advance in my career, when I was a little shy about speaking up in situations, and he just reminded me, look, I hired you because I value you. It was just a reminder of what I already knew within myself, that my voice does matter. And so it doesn't even matter what the situation is as a caregiver or what, you have to believe in yourself and have enough confidence in yourself that you deserve to be heard. And that's especially true for a woman of color. When often our voices are not valued and we often feel disrespected in society, it doesn't matter. Know the respect that you have for yourself and carry that as a badge of whether you're going to work or you're just, running errands. You deserve to be and are valued in this society and should be as much as anyone. Therefore, speak and do it respectfully and do it directly, but don't avoid it, because you never know. You expressing what frustrations or issues you may be having could be the same ones as someone else is having, and not only are you helping yourself, but you're helping others as well.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice. We have another question here. How can the private sector work in tandem with policymakers to support working mothers? Who wants to take that on?
No, that's a really
Leticia?
good question. I think that you need to do some research to find out others that are in your area that have the same concerns. Maybe you can start with your family, your friends, and move into the work. Anyone that has the same concerns as you, it's a good opportunity to be able to create some type of group, and then do the research together to find out venues to be able to bring your concerns to the public, to the government. But definitely need, as Stacy, you said earlier, there's others that probably have the same concerns, the same questions, want to be able to have their voices heard. So definitely be able to find resources that are on the same concerns and build from that.
We have a question here. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to build to the previous comment, Maria. It's very similar. And just to give a concrete example, I mean, the beginning that at BMS now with the pandemic, right, we did revise and we expanded our benefits. And all that happened, it was really because we were hearing what the employees were asking us. So we had to say, okay, so let's revise and let's expand, let's be more flexible. So don't underestimate the power that we have. The organizations are looking to our feedback. Don't think, oh, might be just me, like Stace was saying before. Don't underestimate. Make sure you get your teams, you raise your concerns and start to ask, right, why you don't have these. And that's changing the company policy, might change other policies, right? So is just a cascade of events that might happen.
I have a question that I want to ask all of you. The imposter syndrome is a real thing. Have you ever experienced the imposter syndrome? And it's so much more prevalent with women than with men. I don't remember a man ever saying, "Oh no, I don't deserve to have that," or when are they going to know that I'm really not as good as they think I am? But yet sometimes we have that as women. We think we are not good enough. Have any of you ever experienced the imposter syndrome, even if it's in the back of your mind? Major Cruz?
I would
You
say
smiled, so that's why I'm
absolutely.
going to.
My entire career, and it wasn't until recently till I got to the Pentagon and I linked up with the women's groups of officers and minority groups of officers, and we started sharing stories, and I started hearing their stories, and they seemed very similar to mine. And that's really when I kind of snapped out of it and said, "Oh, so I'm not crazy. I'm not an imposter. This is just kind of what it is and how I feel, and this is why." We never spoke about it before. I just didn't have anybody to voice it or talk to about it, and I thought that's just the way the military was. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I was just, doubting myself for many reasons, and I think it helps when you talk to other people that have the same that go through the same thing, and then you kind of get out of it. And like Stacy said, you're valued, you should be heard. And once you get into that mindset, I think things start to change, and you start looking at things a little bit differently and valuing yourself and your work and what you bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to chime in on the imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so I had that as well, and it's interesting when I reflect back when that happened. I think for me, in my situation, I think happened much more when I was an immigrant, when I came here to the US and as well in Canada, because suddenly, like, you are so out of context, right? And you start to question yourself in so many different levels. So it did happen, Maria, and it's similar to what Major Yvette was mentioning, to find people that had similar background that could reinforce me, like, no, it's okay, you are here, you deserve to be here, you have all these credentials. So it did help me, right, to say, okay, it's okay to be here, I'm not an imposter here. But so many times, and I would say probably this was one of the reasons that I have the role that I have now at BMS. I had kind of a scientific career at BMS, and last year I decided to play this role as the lead for Latinos, because I'm like, if this is happening to me, who have all this scientific career, had these credentials, can imagine for how this is happening to others, right? I'm like, okay, I felt like it was my responsibility to lead that dialogue and to engage to help others.
I have some
Maria,
more
Elena,
questions coming in.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay.
We can move on to a different question.
No, go ahead. I think it's important. I want
Well, I was just going to
someone
say,
that's CEO.
Letitia,
I want to know if you've ever gone through that.
yeah, I mean, it's hard to find people in general, especially women, that haven't at some point experienced that in their lives. I think for me, it happens really, really young. When I was just one of two girls of color in my entire class in my school, and from 7th grade to 12th grade, and when you're that much of a minority, it becomes very, very difficult to sort of really feel valued and really know whether or not you really deserve to be where you are. I was fortunate but then good things happened in my life, and I started to put together that if I got into a good school, a good college, and if I got into a good business school, there must be something pretty good about me. And I started just tell myself and remind myself, I do belong. And then, of course, I had, unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of women that were that validating. I had a lot of men, though, who really would speak up to me and tell me that, as I mentioned earlier. And I think by the time I got through my 20s, I was finally at a point where I could tell myself those things. And I think it's really important that if you find yourself in the imposter syndrome, you got to figure out how to get yourself out of it, or how to go talk to other people and get more support so that you don't stay there. Yeah.
Every morning, wake up and say, I am enough, and believe
Absolutely.
it. And believe it. Let me see. I have another question here. This one is for Leticia from Jody. In spite of everything going on, what keeps you motivated and gives you hope for the future? So I have to squint, but the type is very little. Leticia?
Yes, I think what keeps me moving is even today we had a comment at BMS on a topic on resilience, right? Because I really have hope, and I think like there is so much more that we can do. We need to help. At BMS every day as well, we were looking at research, thinking about COVID, how many people we need to help. So I am an optimistic person. Those who know me might agree. Hopefully they will agree with me. So I do have hope. And I think right now, more than ever, those of us who can, we are responsible to bring change, right? I think as we were saying before, Maria, all discrimination, all racial issues, all the inequalities that COVID is showing, right? It put a spotlight. I think we need to make sure we take that responsibility and our hope, and let's bring some change. So probably like what Miriam was saying before, all these challenges, in fact, is giving me more hope and more energy to keep it moving and to make sure I have my energy.
We have one more question before we go to your final comments, and this is from Leah. And the message that women can have children later in life poses fertility challenges for some. How do we remind employers working women are valuable assets at any age?
If I could chime in,
Go ahead, Stacey.
if I could chime in on that, just because pregnancy and fertility, a lot of the issues that we deal with at the March of Dimes, and we are finding that for a lot of women who wait too long to have a baby, they can sometimes have more challenges with fertility. Sometimes women, if their health is deteriorating as they get older, that can also threaten their health. So, there was the health of their baby as well. And so there was a time when I think people really urged women, hey, go ahead and get your career started and wait till you're later, even late 30s, early 40s, and it's okay. And I think what we're finding out now is that in some cases, and of course it's all individual, and it depends on the advice coming from your doctor as well, but sometimes it may be better to start the family a little bit earlier. And what that does mean for employers, and I would say this not just in terms of what employers can do to influence policy, but what employers can do to set a good standard for what it looks like to support women in the workplace and women who want to start families, is that pregnant women deserve to be supported. Obviously, there are laws now to force those reasonable accommodations to be made. But we want employers to set a standard for what it looks like to allow for breastfeeding in the workplace, to make sure that women, as they start their families, have the right health benefits that support those choices. We need the private sector to step up in a really big way. Because if they rely on women to be great employees as they are, and if we are highly productive and smart and capable, then we also have to be recognized for the additional supports we need, because we are the moms. No one else can be the mom but us. So we have to do it all. And that means that we need even more support to make sure that we can live both of those lives as a great employee and as a great mom.
And sometimes we don't really have the choice. I mean, depending on your religious beliefs, we don't really plan your life and say, I'm going to wait, or have any of you experienced that? Have you had to make that decision, Miriam?
Yes, I wanted to share something. So one of the things that I want to do after I retire is I want to get a new law submitted. So just like young mothers, we have mothers that are our ages or in the sandwich generation, younger children also with older parents. So I have I took care of my father before he passed in January. My mother, I'm taking care of her now. But 15 years ago, I met this incredible young lady. She was a Holocaust survivor, no family in the area. She and I became quick friends. And before I knew it, within 5 years of our 17-year friendship, she had decided that she wanted to put me down as her medical directive and to help her when she became ill and to make sure that she was going to be taken care of, and try to keep her out of a nursing home as much as and as long as possible. So for those 17 years, after getting a blessing from my parents to be able to help her since she was alone in this area, I still had to take my own personal vacation to be able to take her to doctors and to appointments. And when I went to my organization and I asked, is there any way that I can have this person added as part of my family medical leave responsibilities and time? And the answer was no, because I was not a direct blood relative. Although I was legally assigned as her guardian, I was not able to take that opportunity. So one of the things that I think that we need is, if we are guardians of a younger or an elder individual, then the law should protect us, and we should be allowed to use the time and not have that time count against us. So, the FML, I think, needs to be extended to those unique situations that may occur where we need to then become a parent, a guardian, or as a mother to someone that's
You know,
disabled.
what's so sad about this is that you're talking about there should be laws. There should just be some humanity and understanding and not require laws. But if we need them, we need them. Let's go on to your final comments. And like I said before, I want to talk about me time and how we take care of ourselves so that we're able to take care of everyone else. If you want to incorporate that into your final thoughts or your final observations, you're more than welcome to do so. Let's start with you, Major Yvette Cruz.
Yeah, so thank
And
you.
I don't know
I
why my
just want to
picture's there.
thank the
Something happened with my video. Go ahead.
thanks CHCI for this opportunity. Maria, Elena, thank you so much for this. I think for me time, I think that's super important. I make sure to make me time all the time because I know if I'm not well, I'm not going to be able to stay well and be a good mom or be a good employee. So mental health is in spiritual and all these different things to take care of are very important, and I do that often. So I just like to add on here that we are a very good employer for Latinas, and we're always looking for new talent in the Air Force. And I think that some of the things and the new policies coming out for women in the Air Force are outstanding and can definitely provide a good work-life balance for the women coming behind us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Leticia.
Yeah, thank you, Maria Elena. So it's interesting because I would say I wasn't as good as I am now in the past, as I was in the past, but now I do have a routine and I do take some learnings that I had from one of my professors from leadership. So every day I exercise now. I do make time for that, to exercise. I do make time to read, to sleep, because that's the other thing. I need my sleep and time to think, right? Sometimes we need to clear out our mind. So the acronym for that would be REST. So read, exercise, sleep, and think. That's something that I do every day, even if it's a little bit. And when I say read something that's not your email, right? Read something different.
Yeah. Thanks for that reminder. Miriam, what about you? What are your final thoughts?
Absolutely. I think that you definitely want to take care of your mental, physical, environmental state, because once you're in a good place, you're able to really help others, pay it forward to help forward. And as far as Geico and Latinos, they have just taken leaps and bounds over the years. And I'm really, really proud of the changes the organization has made for all different types of ethnic and racial backgrounds. As a matter of fact, we just kicked off a new project. I was part of that initial conversation. A group of Geico insurance coverage, which is going to be Somos, and means that we are Spanish at Geico's. So we'll be probably hiring in the next year or two, especially in our Florida office, to help kick off and sustain and support the Latino community. And thank you, Elena,
Great.
Maria, and to CHCI for this opportunity.
Thank you, Miriam. Stacy, your final observations.
Well, thank you, Maria Elena, and thanks to CHCI for this fantastic opportunity, and these great panelists have really said it all. I would just say that, for decades we've talked about work-life balance, and often in the life we've left me us as an individual out of life. Life always seems to be other things going on in life except for what's going on with us. So I
Right.
think what the other panelists have said is exactly right. It needs to start with us. It starts with me. So I think we need a new term that's me work life balance, or juggling or whatever. But we need to be able to put ourselves first, and that is both with our mental health, with exercise, good and sleep, stress reduction, so that we can do those things in work and other parts of our life and do them well.
Well, thank you so much for your very informative and inspiring comments and advice for everyone. I want to thank our wonderful panelists for this thoughtful discussion. Major Yvette Cruz Bivens, Leticia Ferri, Miriam Freeborn, and Stacy D. Stewart. Thank you all. And of course, thank you, CHCI. And just to remind you to keep tweeting about the conference, CHCI HHM20. It's not that hard. Remember, CHCI Hispanic Heritage Month 20. So keep tweeting about it. We encourage you, of course, also to attend sessions for the rest of today and the rest of the week. Now that you're registered, you can attend any session. To find a session that you're interested in going to, just go to the for chciahm.org. And also, if you know people who would be interested in the conference but haven't signed up yet, encourage them to log in and register again at CHCIHM Live. So thank you to all of you for being part of this. Thank you very much to CHCI for inviting me, for great panelists. I think this was a very productive conversation, a conversation that we definitely needed to have. And I'm glad that I had the honor of being part of it. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the conference.